a company culture is the result of how you treat each other and how you act and how you live as a company and as employees of the company. Um, I People who try to create a culture, I don't think you can do that. I think the culture is a byproduct of your beliefs and your values and what everybody thinks about those and how much they engage in them.
Welcome, everyone, to the Tech Business Roundtable podcast show. This is a podcast show dedicated to shining a spotlight on tech innovators, entrepreneurs, founders, and the compelling narratives behind the movements they've established. I'm your host, Ryan Davies, and I'm hosting today's discussion on defining company culture and its impact with Michael Perrin. Michael, our first two-time guest. I'm so excited. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here again.
Right, and this is good. We're getting to be good friends now. Michael, a little bit of a background about him. He's been a speaker at hundreds of events and conferences around the world, talking about technology, changing markets, coaching, culture, professional development, creating opportunities for individuals through equitable hiring. He's an ICF-certified executive coach, an avid cyclist, fly fisherman, chocolatier, and on the business side, a three-times entrepreneur himself, has grown businesses leaps and bounds. Michael, anything else you want to touch on here that I have not shone a light on yet?
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't say I'm a very happily married man who is developed my persistence through the pursuit of my wife. So it took 13 years to convince her to date me, and which I believe prepared me to become an entrepreneur.
There you go. That's I think that's going to tie really well into how to build culture and its impact, and how to build those relationships and communication styles and everything. So you had a really good training, a pre-training that led into even bigger things for you. But will we kind of dive into that? Let's what does company culture mean to you? Because that is a very broad term. It can be very cliched. It's on every job application and interview or job posting, right? As culture and all of this. What does it boil down to for you?
Well, to me, it's a collection of values and how you live out those values, and what do people believe about those values? Because a company culture is the result of how you treat each other and how you act and how you live as a company and as employees of the company. People who try to create a culture, I don't think you can do that. I think the culture is a byproduct of your beliefs and your values and what everybody thinks about those and how much they engage in them. Anything else is honestly, it just seems like made up. And I was at I was an executive coach for some really massive companies, and with the rock climbing walls in the lobby and all this other stuff, and they tick off all those different things, and then they work you 80 hours a week, so you can't enjoy any of them. And I was like, how often do you actually do this stuff out here? They're like, oh shit, man, we have no time to do that. Right. It looks nice though. It's great for recruiting.
I was going to say it's a great recruitment tool, and that was one of the things that I've always found, both from personal and other experiences, is company culture can be a very strong marketing tool, right? So it's really big from a recruiting standpoint. It's almost that internal marketing thing. I got many times I've worked places that have had stickers that say impact, or a coffee mug that says believe, or something like that. And it's like, is this culture? Is this just meant to I'm not really sure, right? Like, I'm assuming you've experienced that before. And how do you kind of draw that line between, we want to promote culture, right? We've got a lot of people listening here who are trying to promote culture, a positive culture, but without making it a marketing tool, without making it so it seems disingenuous.
Well, I don't know if I can prescribe a way to do that for everybody, but I can describe how we've done it. And the very first thing was executive staff didn't create our values. That is unique.
I like that.
So after our company existed for several years, we had never really written our values down. And there was kind of an unintentional reason for that. I wanted to see how we would mesh and what we were creating. I didn't want to predefine some box to fit us in. And so we actually, it wasn't just laziness. It was I didn't really know so much what we wanted to be when we grew up. And it seemed a little disingenuous to say, when there was just two people, this is the culture of our corporation, right? We didn't really feel much like a corporation. And so after several years, we started to have these annual gatherings. We used to go up to Mount Princeton Hot Springs and in Colorado here and rent cabins, and we would invite everybody's family, so their partners and spouses and children, dogs, the whole thing. And when we would do kind of the company overview in the afternoon and some exercises, we would invite their partners to come. Like the kids, not really, but the partners to come. Anybody wants to know about really what's happening at the company because it matters to you, show up, right? This isn't just for our employees, it's for their families too. And so one time we did this exercise, we asked two questions. We broke everybody up into 4 groups, and they had little pieces of paper, and we said, we want you to write down 2 things: values you think we have that you would like us not to lose as we grow, and then another category of values we wish you wish we had expression of more in the company. And then the COO and I actually left and it demonstrated our value for micro beer breweries, and we went to the bar until they were done, and they came and got us. And then they all walked through each one of the groups of these things that they thought were our values and things they'd like to see more of. And what was crazy about this exercise is strange phrases that I never recall saying myself came out in all the groups. Like, value the whole person was a value they thought we had. I don't ever remember saying that, but all 4 groups actually wrote the same thing down. Wow. And so there was lots of stuff written down, right? And then all of these types of things. And so what we did is we captured them all. Then we put them in a spreadsheet, and then we grouped them. And then we put them in a online presentation, a Google Sheets, a Google presentations. And then we said, all right, we've narrowed it down to 5 themes and then the associated behaviors. And then we then opened it up for everybody to comment on, including their partners, because their partners, like their families, were involved in the creation of this first list. So we wanted all of them. And they're like, no, I wrote that, but that's not what I meant. What I meant was this. And so then they adjusted it. And then, you know, we only had one kind of thing that I insisted on. I created a category name that was weird, because I think you need to have at least one weird thing. But it has to be accurate. So we have a category called Bird Dog Joy. Because you want people to ask questions, right? But it's actually meaningful. We live this out so much that it's the whole idea is that you would look for opportunities for joy. You'd hunt them down. You chase them relentlessly and enthusiastically, and then you share them and bring them back to everybody else. And this is like the favorite value of everyone, because every week we do an all hands, and everybody, like, we have a Bird Dog Joy channel on Slack, and people share anything that was joyful in their life. and we all get to celebrate, and it inspires others to do the same. Like to go, like I can't tell you how many times I've evaluated my boring weekend. I'm like, man, this person went to Patagonia last week, right? I got to go do something, you know, and it really is great. But that's a long answer to a short question. But it's we had our team create the values. They have ownership in them, and they believe in them, and we haven't changed them in years and years and years because we don't need to.
I love that. I think, that's a great, just an amazing takeaway, right? Is the fact that so many times we get prescribed, right? Here's the company culture, new hires, here's what we're doing, right? This is what I believe, so this is what you believe. That bottom up kind of idea of flowing up, right? And having that as a element of the culture itself, right? Is that it flattens it, right? That's a big thing, is that accessibility to things like values and whatnot. Do you find that, again, you've been 3 times entrepreneur now, in and out of doing this, rebuilding culture each time? Have you remodeled? Has it been something where you've got, again, like, it's hard to prescribe, and I know, like, I talked to you now twice now. I'm gonna lean on you more. I'm telling you right now, because I just absolutely love these conversations. You've got a charisma, you've got a charm, you're definitely a likable person, right? So with that said, is it just a natural thing going in and saying, hey, look, this is the culture and this is how we're doing it? Or, again, like you said, in this case, was it different in that you said, I'm gonna step back and I'm not gonna prescribe values. I'm gonna wait and see how things shake out?
Well, I would have to say that there had to be an element of modeling in the first years. I was very intentional, and I do try to be intentional about how I am with people and how I encourage, or like I'm not the best encourager. Like I try, work at it, right? And how I coach and those types of things. So there was an element of modeling. There was also the element of the type of people that I hired, right? That you come with your own values. Right? If they clash with the people that you're working with, then you'll have a struggle. Values really are kind of the foundational element of integration between humans, right? And it is the foundational reason for disintegration in relationship between humans is values. And so there was a fair amount of selection around those types of things. When we would use a lot of really long words in interviews to describe who we were and how we worked, right? It's a lot easier now that we have certain labels for those. What's another thing that is key is that we committed to these not being just words on a website or a wall. Right. So every single quarter we do values exercises. We have a trainer come in who we trust, who actually does exercises with us, and we teach models. So we teach how to give feedback. We call it SBIR. So what was the situation? What was the behavior? What was the impact? And what was the result of that, or the reaction to that? And so we teach people these types of models, and we're constantly training them. So when we onboard people, we're like, all right, these are the things that are going to surprise you about our company, right? And so we teach them some of these models. And you're not going to believe that there's no politics here until you try to triangulate and you talk about somebody to someone else, and you're probably going to receive one of two responses. There's only two acceptable responses when you say, well, so-and-so did this. The first one is, when are you going to talk to them? And that's hopefully the only one. But if you resist that, the second only acceptable response is, when would you like me to help you with that conversation? That's the end of it.
I like it.
If those two things are not accepted, we have a different type of conversation. And that's a coaching conversation to get you to the place of accepting that. So that type of thing, right? It just that consistency and creating the associated behaviors. So these values that we have associated behaviors that are expectations around them. And we believe that these are human values that I think we would want to live everywhere in our life, not just in our office. And I think that's where, when executive mandate values fail, is they're thinking about what's best for our company, not what kind of people do we want to develop.
Yeah.
That's the shift.
And I love that comment, because I mean, I think most everybody listening, or a lot of people listening anyways, are going to, resonate with the fact of, I spend more time with my work family than I do my family, right? And as you were saying, like some of these places that are like, hey, we got a rock climbing wall, but you're here 88 hours a week, so cool, you can see it every day, but you're there so much that this really needs to embody, what you enjoy doing and those values, and you need to connect to that level. With that said, when you're again, you're a master of scalability now, you've grown businesses at this stage. Hiring, is this a, at what point of the conversation does it become a, here's our values, here's our culture, or is it really more of a, do you ask for their values and see if it fits you? How do you feel that part of a conversation out to make that decision? Because that's a big one, like you just said.
Well, the thing is would people really believe you if you actually said, this is the culture of our company?
Yeah, right. That's true.
Would they really? If they're smart, and hopefully we're hiring smart people, they're evaluating us as we're evaluating them in the interview, just equally or even more so, because hiring one person doesn't impact you as much as choosing a company. Right?
Right. Yeah.
And so your company isn't as impacted by one person as one person is impacted by the company they choose. And so it's a bigger decision for an individual. And we try to respect that is a very, very significant thing. And so we try to kind of suss out what's important to somebody. And the thing is that they're probably not going to believe us about these soft things, right? So yeah, we have dogs in the office. I have a dog on my feet right now. You're going to figure that out. We don't have to tell you about that. You come for an interview. If you like dogs, you're going to enjoy this.
Right.
The other things, they're in the job description of the kind of place we are. But what I do tell people when I interview them, I say, all right, if we work something out and you end up working here, let me tell you the first thing that's going to surprise you. Unsolicited by anybody, and you're going to meet with every single person that you work with and other people that you don't. In your first 2 weeks, you're going to meet with everybody and learn about their job. You're going to be shocked at how often, completely unsolicited, in the course of normal conversation, one of these people will bring up our values. And I said, let me just tell you right now, I'm not going to try to convince you that these are our values, but within the first 2 weeks of being here, you will know that it's true. Because you can't have a conversation about working here without talking about them. We live them every single week in our all hands, in our individual meetings.
Yeah.
We give values awards. And every single month, people nominate people for expressing our values. In our reviews, 30% of your review is how you are living out the behaviors of our values or not. 30%. Right?
Wow. Yeah.
That's significant. That's not like icing on the cake. I mean, that's like cutting deep in cake, right?
Yeah.
So that's a lot. I mean, it's almost a third of everything that we care about in your performance is how you relate and treat people, how you learn. We want to care about you. If we don't know about you or your family or what's going on, I mean, we don't need to get all up in your chili on everything. But we want to build a culture of trust enough that something's going on, you tell us.
Right.
So if that's uncomfortable, like I tell people, if that kind of transparency is uncomfortable and you don't want that kind of closeness with the people that you work, you really need to just go, because this is not going to be good for you. Because I believe that if you want someone to, or you expect someone to be vulnerable, you have to give them more than then you expect them to give you initially. So if I, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being completely a turtle and 10 being oversharing, if you want someone to give you a 5, you got to give them a 7 or an 8. You try not to scare them. But what you'll find from me is that there's nothing off limits. I'll tell you about the dysfunction in the family that I grew up. I'll tell you about all the things that I've struggled with, and because hopefully that will provide hope to people. But it also provides a bit of a relief, so that people are like, well, man, his stuff is much worse than mine. I can share something with him.
I love it. I think that's kind of the issues that company culture tries to solve, right? Like a good, strong culture solves things like poor communication or inconsistency and things along those lines. Like, I mean, I don't need to go too deep into it. It's too weird of a question or too much of a question, but like, do you find that there are more benefits than you bargained for almost in terms of embracing that company culture? Like, again, it helps you with retention. It helps you with alignment. Is there other things that just kind of brings everything together that you lean on for culture?
It helped me fire somebody.
Still
It
great,
helped
yeah.
me. It helped me let go of at one time in our company, the best software engineer that we had. And everyone's like, there's no way we could fire this person. And I'm like, there's no way I can't.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced I've heard about something. I coached this individual. I said, this is a one-shot deal, because this is the hill I will die on, is these values. And nobody is greater than that. And in that moment, I actually heard from numerous people. They're like, you are really serious about this stuff, aren't you? Like, because I walked this person out the door. And I don't want to talk about those kind of negative things, but what the point is that the decision,
yes,
was so easy for me. I didn't hesitate about this decision. I tried to help, but I'm like, this is not a difficult thing, but it's a difficult thing for everybody else, because they're like, this person's so valuable. And I'm like, it's not enough.
Yeah, there's a cost benefit here, right? And that's pretty important. I've got one more. I know we've been going for a while here, and I'm going to steal all the time I can with you. How do you measure culture? Like you just mentioned, this is great. You do a review and you've got it weighted, so you can actually document it, speak about it. You have all hands where you've got processes in mind, right? Where it's your SBIR, right? Was it where we're, what's
that's
the
one of the it's one of the
right?
models.
So there are many different ways that you can measure it. How have you found a successful way to either quantify, measure, however you want to say it, culture? Because culture to so many is just an ambiguous cloud of, here it is, we have culture, right? So
I don't think you can measure a culture. I think you can measure the things that create a culture. Like I said, the culture, I believe, is a result of the values that you live.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Right. But I believe you can measure the values if the values are not platitudes, but they actually have associated behaviors. Right. You can measure somebody's behavior. You can at least recognize it and say, we do have certain behaviors. Right. And I see those behaviors in you. Right. A value, if you just think it and don't do anything about it, is it really a value? If there's no associated action that anybody recognizes that you're living out, is it a value, or is it just words? And to be honest, I think you know what my answer is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's I mean, that's exactly what the purpose behind fostering a positive culture is beyond, like we said, don't make it a marketing gimmick. Don't make it something where you hand in a handbook to go, here's words, remember them, live them, whatever that means. But we don't know we can't define that, right? It comes down to just like any other process in your company, define what it is. Like give a reason for it, what the impact is behind it, and how you can actually, tell if it's working or not. In your experience, maybe not at one of your companies, but like, have you seen really where everything was right but culture, and that was the downfall? Like, I don't want you to put people's names on the spots or anything. Was that have you witnessed it before, kind of firsthand,
Well,
for you
downfall, I don't know. I mean, revenue solves most problems.
to?
It doesn't solve this one, right? But because you just churn people. So it's a retention issue. I mean, people will put up with a lot of crap if they really enjoy their work,
Yep.
right? They will put up with a lot of risk. They'll put up with a lot of change. But if they don't enjoy this, they don't feel safe where they are, if they don't feel respected where they are, man, it's pretty easy to recruit them away. So yeah, I'm sure you could quantify that. I'm sure McKinsey and other people have quantified that type of thing. I can basically see it. When I was at a company called Novell long time ago, it was the 5th largest software company in the world. I one time had HR come to me and say, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Am I in the principal's office right now? It feels like the principal's office. I don't know what I did. I don't know how to answer this question. So can you give me some context?" Because I was a little nervous. HR didn't show up in my office unless there was a problem. And they said, "You haven't had a single person in your entire division leave in 2 years. That's never happened. What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm not sure." I really, at that time, I was young. I was in my early 30s. And I'm thinking, I don't really know. What I have done is I really focused on people's skills. And when we do layoffs every year, this is the kind of company that 10% of the company was considered dispensable every November. And so they laid off 10% of the people. And I always had a list. I'm like, yeah, that person's in the wrong job. I bet they get laid off. And I would get this list in advance and from HR, and I'd go through and I'd circle people, and I would wait till they get their package, and I would stand out in the front of the building. They'd be walking out all sad with their package. And I'm like, you come to my office, right? I have a job for you. I wanted you to get your package first. So it's like a bonus. You get a bonus. Now I don't have to give it to you. Let the company give you a bonus. Take a week off. I want to hire you for this job. They're like, "I've never done that before." I'm like, "You just don't know you're good at it." And so many of these people, because this is how people help me, right? They saw skills and abilities, and they're like, "I think you can do this." And I'm like, "I have no earthly idea how to do that." They're like, "I'll teach you." And so I said, "The skills I need are this." And they're like, "Oh, I have those skills." I'm like, so people can't translate. They've never been able to do that very easily. It's like, military job, trying to translate it to private sector. It's hard, right? I shoot guns at people. Well, no, you actually run a team, and you do organization, and you do motivation. And if you can break things down to their skills, you can actually then translate them into a whole bunch of other jobs. Managers and leaders need to be able to do that. They need to understand skills that are necessary. They understand why people are successful. And then you build someone's career, you give them an opportunity. Man, they are loyal. They're like, "I never would have known I'd be great at this if it wasn't for you." And then you know what? They stick around.
I mean, this has been an unbelievable podcast. I have been smiling the entire time. Defining company culture and its impact with Michael Simpson. I don't. If you didn't understand the impact that company culture has from listening to this, holy crow! I mean, this is exactly what we want to bring our listeners in terms of just great wisdom, insight, the importance of it. And Michael, before we sign off, I know we've done it once before, but for people to get in contact with you, with people to get a hold of you, to learn more, pick your brain, please share with us how they can do so.
I'd say the best way is just go to pairing.com. It's like pairing without the G. I'm from the South. We don't use unnecessary consonants as the ends of words. And we connect people. We pair them to careers and jobs and services and education. And so that's how that came about, by the way. And so just go to pairing.com, and you can find my LinkedIn there and contact me. You can also look on our culture section, and it is our values. We don't really describe the culture. We describe our values.
Perfect. That's absolutely. I mean, there's another hack for everybody. Go and check it out. Parent.com. Michael,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Michael Simpson joining us again today. I'm going to get you back here again. I think this is a regular occurrence that I could use. I'll be selfish. I just absolutely love the podcast with you. So I want to take a minute to thank you genuinely for this amazing podcast, defining company culture and its impact. And I also want to thank our listeners as well. We cannot do what we do without you. Michael, thank you again so much for being here.
Always a pleasure.
And until we meet again with another amazing TBR episode, I'm your host, Ryan Davies. Thanks. Take care, everybody.